There's good chaos and bad chaos. Good chaos, in a sense, is where chaos, where things are disrupted, has an openness to new order emerging up ahead.
Co-creationist-ness to
Yes.
good chaos.
Yes, I think that's true. I think there's a co-create. I think, by the way, I think Jesus was very chaotic. If you think of what he did in his own time, I mean, he by no means brought order to his milieu, just the opposite. He was what I would call a strange attractor, He was a faithful Jewish boy in a Jewish milieu, and then he overturned everything Jewish, right? And so he was like a basin of attraction within an established system, but his chaotic behavior sort of began to disrupt that system and pull it into a new pattern of behavior or a new order that we call Christian life, And, Christian life is like a fractal, right? You can call it Christic fractals that keep adding up over and over again into something new. And I think, someone once described Jesus as a mutation. There was something about him that was so radical in love. He again, faithful Jewish kid, and yet something not quite right here, something different. And I do think two things. I think, what we see in Jesus is to be a Christian, you have to be a mutation, and you have to be a strange attractor, and you have to be willing to live in radical newness. Because that's what God is. I mean, Meister Eckhart says God is the newest thing there is. Love is always new. Love is not old. We know that when love gets old, it's stale, it dies. Love is always, in a sense, even people who've been married forever and ever, and they're constantly falling in love, in ever new ways. It's not static at all. You see something in the other you never saw before, even after 40 and 50 years. Or something awakens in the other that was there all the time, but you never attended to it. It's new, and that's what we're saying. God is the ever newness in love, the newest thing there is, Eckhart says, the youngest thing. And he says, and when we're united to God, we become new again. And so I think, if we could focus our attention on several things. One, the deep immersion of God in our midst, in our lives, in our own beingness, in the lives of others. I don't think we do what we do to one another to any significant degree if we can recognize that the God in me is also the God in you. And so we really are united on a deep level of divine love, whether or not we're aware of that. And second, the fact that God is in love with everything, with the trees and the flowers and the stars and, even the little earthworms and even the snowflakes falling outside, everything bears that love of God within it, and would we do what we do, to one another and to the things of the earth? I don't think so. I don't think if we had an awakening, an attention, or a consciousness that what God is about is to be God for us and to be with us. But I think because we've had this idea of God in the sky, the big guy in the sky, and therefore we feel like a lonely, stranded group here on the planet, and we don't know where to go. I think we feel overwhelmed. I think consumerism has done a really fine job of transplanting religion, or you might say co-opting it. And so, as many writers tell us now, the mall has become the new church, right? So, I go to church and I don't, can't quite get the connection with everything, but I can go to the mall and really feel drawn out of myself by everything that's new, because we love new things, right? We love to buy. Purchase power is sort of a type of a ritual. Instead of going to church and having rituals, now we go to the mall and have rituals. And what's problem? I mean, I like to shop. Don't get me wrong. I like things, but with consumerism, it's the ism. It's the taking in of everything. So we are, in a sense, commodifying everything. Everything is just an object for exchange of some sort, including religion. We commodify religion itself. Like, I was talking with my students last week about the way we're not even conscious anymore of the stuff we're buying and where it's coming from. I mean, several years ago, there was a huge discussion over the Nike sneaker factories in Indonesia, where workers were being paid barely enough to buy the basic necessities for the day. and at $1.50 a day for churning out 8 to 10 hours of work, that sneaker goes through the realms of the economic cycle into the capitalistic world and is sold for $90, $100. And so we're so removed, we're not even conscious of, the Indonesian worker or the conditions under which they're working. Sometimes it's slave conditions. We're not even aware that when we buy our bananas at the grocery store or our blueberries, do we even look where they're coming from? I looked at my blueberries this morning, they're from Peru. Are we even aware of what's going on in Peru, their economic conditions, the workers, what kind of conditions they're working in? So consumerism has so detached us from the roots of anything. And I think because we don't have a religious rootedness, that God is rooted in us, we are disconnected from God, we're disconnected from one another, we're disconnected from the things of the earth, and so we buy and buy and buy and take in for ourselves to try to make ourselves feel good, to kind of fill in the empty hole within us. And it's not working. We're not happy. We're not happier than any before. We feel more isolated. I mean, depression is on the rise, suicide is on the rise. So, from a diagnostic perspective, we are not doing well, Yeah, the patient's definitely sick, collectively.